My mother-in-law made fun of me for only finishing high school. She called me uneducated and lazy, then kicked me out. I just said, okay, and left quietly. Then I moved into my $10 million vacation home in Hawaii. 3 months later. Hi, Reddit. I'm Ava Morgan, 28 years old. My mother-in-law has never liked me. Since the beginning, she thought I wasn't good enough for her son. She saw me as a gold digger, just someone with a high school diploma and a small Etsy shop. She never even tried to understand what I actually did. When she found out I worked from home, she called me jobless, like it was something to be ashamed of. I used to laugh it off. My husband Jason told me to ignore her. He said she was just old-fashioned, that she judged everyone who didn't have a traditional 9 to 5. But that excuse wore thin fast, especially when her contempt began slipping into every family gathering, every phone call, every holiday. And then she finally crossed the line. It happened 3 months ago, right after Thanksgiving. Jason and I had flown out to Arizona to spend the week with his family. I was hesitant, things had already been tense with her for months. She had taken to posting vague Facebook statuses about women who trap rich men and fake entrepreneurs with no degrees. Jason kept brushing it off, telling me she just needed time to adjust. Adjust? The woman was a fire-breathing dragon in designer sunglasses. There was no adjusting, just dodging her flames. I had bought everyone thoughtful gifts, helped cook dinner, and even made dessert from scratch, something I knew she'd appreciate because she once bragged that real women bake without a mix. I was trying, genuinely. I wanted peace. But peace was never on her menu. The explosion happened the night before we were supposed to leave. Her entire extended family was over, her cousins, Jason's childhood friends, neighbors, at least 30 people. I was helping set the table when she called out from the kitchen. Hey, since you're not working, why don't you make yourself useful and scrub the wine glasses? That alone made the room go quiet. I blinked. Jason was in the living room, mid-conversation. I smiled awkwardly. Actually, I was just about to help serve. She cut me off, louder this time. I mean, what else do you even do all day? Sit on your butt and play entrepreneur? Must be nice, living off my son's hard-earned money. Laughter. Laughter from the room. From her sisters. Even from some of the men. Jason stood up, looking stunned. But it was too late. Excuse me, I said, keeping my voice low. She came closer. The entire party stopped talking. You heard me. You're a high school grad with a pretend business. I see your Instagram. You're not a CEO. You're a bored housewife selling overpriced candles or crystals or whatever that junk is. I felt my chest tighten. My ears were ringing. Jason rushed over, trying to intervene, but she turned on him too. Don't defend her, Jason. You know it's true. She's wasting your money, your time, your life. She's uneducated and jobless, and I'm tired of pretending she's not. That's when I snapped. I could have yelled. I could have thrown something. But instead, I did something far worse. I smiled. You're right, I said calmly. I'm just a high school grad with a pretend job. So let me do the uneducated thing and leave. I turned, walked upstairs, packed my suitcase in less than 5 minutes, and came down to see Jason arguing with her while her entire family watched like it was a live drama. I'll be fine, I told him. Don't worry. I'll just go to the vacation house. Jason's mother's brow furrowed. What vacation house? I looked her dead in the eye. The one I bought in Maui with my pretend money. Dead silence. I didn't elaborate. I didn't scream. I didn't throw a tantrum. I just left. You see, the thing my mother-in-law never cared to ask about was what I actually did for a living. I run a set of wildly successful e-commerce stores. My Etsy shop? Just the front door. Behind that was a team of remote workers, a series of passive income channels, a tech-savvy brain, and an insane work ethic. I don't say this to brag, but because I earned every dollar I made. When I was 19, I started selling handmade jewelry online. By 22, I had 3 full stores, an app, and licensing deals with 2 boutique retail chains. At 25, I invested in digital marketing courses and scaled up everything. And by 27, I was bringing in 7 figures annually. I kept my expenses low, reinvested smart, and bought properties, including the Maui house, all in cash. The only reason I never rubbed it in anyone's face was because I never felt the need to. Until now. When I landed in Hawaii the next morning, I FaceTimed Jason. He was staying in a hotel. I packed my stuff. "I'm done," he said. "If she can't respect my wife, she doesn't get to keep me around either." I wish I could say that was the end of it. But chaos had only just begun. Because 3 months later, something unexpected happened. I was sipping pineapple juice on the balcony of my cliffside villa, watching the sun rise, when Jason called me. He was using a burner number, one we used for emergencies. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "My mom showed up at the office." I laughed. "Why, to pick a fight?" "To beg," he said. I sat up straighter. "What?" He sighed. Her business partner pulled out of their investment deal. Her new boutique failed before launch. She used our wedding fund to secure a lease on the storefront, and the landlord's suing her for damages. My jaw dropped. "What does this have to do with me?" He hesitated, then said the words I'll never forget. "She wants to come live with us in Hawaii, just for a while," she said, "until she gets back on her feet." I didn't respond right away. I just stood up, walked to the edge of the balcony, and stared at the ocean, the same ocean she once mocked me for visiting instead of working a real job. After a long silence, I replied, "You know what? Tell her I'll think about it." That was the moment it all began unraveling. Because I wasn't just going to say no, I was going to make her feel what it's like to be treated as disposable, unworthy, and small, the way she made me feel for years. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reality catching up to the queen of delusion. And I was about to serve her the bill, with interest. I gave Jason the go-ahead to tell her I was considering it. That was the key, not agreeing, considering, because I wanted her to feel uncertainty, the kind she had dumped on me every time she questioned my worth, my marriage, or my future. Let her squirm. A week later, I got the most absurd email of my life. It was a full-blown presentation deck from my mother-in-law, no greeting, no apology, just 10 slides titled, "Why letting me live in your Hawaii home is a smart investment." It included things like, "I can cook and clean and I'm low maintenance. It will be temporary, 6 months max. I'll help around the house while you and Jason work, assuming you still work. I can even start a travel blog for the house to bring in guests." I stared at it in disbelief. There wasn't a single sorry anywhere in that document, no mention of the humiliation, no acknowledgement of the things she said. Just entitled nonsense with clip art and palm trees. Jason was furious. I told him to wait, I had a plan. The next day, I called my assistant, Maya, and told her to begin prepping the Maui house for a special guest. Not my mother-in-law, someone else. Then I set things in motion. First, I booked 2 flights, one for Jason, one for his mom. I had her fly in 2 days before Jason, so I could control the narrative. She didn't know that. Of course, she thought he'd be arriving first. She landed in Maui and immediately texted me. "Landed, can you send a car?" I replied. "Already waiting, enjoy the ride." I had rented her a luxury van, but one that took her nowhere near my property. Instead, the driver dropped her off at a modest little 2-bedroom rental I had just purchased for business overflow. It was neat, clean, and about 45 minutes from my actual vacation home. I had stocked it with enough food for a few days, some old furniture, and most importantly, absolutely no view. She called me that night, sounding confused. "I thought you said this was an oceanfront house." I smiled. "Oh, no, this isn't my house, this is the guest property, think of it as transitional." She didn't respond for a beat. "Right, transitional, got it." Then came phase 2. The next morning, I drove to my house, where Jason was waiting. I had prepped the entire place for something special, a garden party. But not just any garden party. I had invited some of the most powerful women in our business circle, female founders, CEOs, digital nomads, investors, all of them successful, grounded, brilliant women with unconventional career paths. We drank fresh smoothies, swapped ideas, discussed collaborations. Jason sat back in awe, watching me in my element, completely at home. Then came the cherry on top. I brought up my plan to turn the Maui house into a luxury retreat for female entrepreneurs. Everyone was excited. The property was already stunning: cliffside views, eco-conscious interiors, private access to the beach. We started brainstorming themes: healing and hustle, the quiet power, the high school grad's empire. They loved that last one. Jason raised his glass. To my wife, the uneducated and jobless millionaire. Everyone laughed. Except me. I had one more thing to do. That evening, I finally visited my mother-in-law. She was outside, sitting on a plastic chair, sipping boxed wine she must have picked up from the local store. She looked surprised to see me. I brought dinner. 2 containers of Hawaiian poke bowls from one of my favorite spots. She took hers in silence. Then she said, "So, when do I see the main house?" I leaned back. "Oh, you won't. I'm selling it." Her face twisted. "What?" I nodded. "Yep, I've outgrown it. I'm building a new one, even bigger, better views, private dock, but that one's not for guests." She went pale. "So I'm just supposed to stay here?" I smiled. "No, you're not staying at all." I stood up and handed her a manila folder. Inside was a check written out to her for $10,000. "What's this?" "A severance package," I said, "for all the years you spent insulting me, for the time you called me a gold digger, for dragging me in front of your family. I figured I'd give you one final payment, just like a company does when it's letting someone go." "You're kicking me out." I tilted my head. "Let's not pretend you were ever in." She looked like she wanted to scream, but she didn't. She just sat there, eyes glassy, shoulders drooping. Then she muttered, "I was just trying to protect my son." "From what?" I asked. "A woman who worked harder than anyone you've ever met? A woman who built a business from nothing? Or was it just that I didn't come with a diploma and a pedigree?" She had no answer. I started to walk away, but before getting into my car, I said, "Oh, and that guest house? It's already rented. You have 24 hours to move out." She didn't argue. Maybe deep down, she knew she deserved it. Jason supported me the whole time. He said this wasn't revenge, it was healing. 3 weeks later, my assistant showed me a Facebook post from her. "Feeling lost, starting fresh, lesson learned, never underestimate quiet people. They might own the land you're standing on." I still didn't like her, but I respected that.